What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This is season 6, episode 15. And before I get into it, I just want to say Happy New Year, y'all. We made it. We made it. Like, surprisingly, I am optimistic about the year 2026. And it's been a couple of years since I've been optimistic when it comes time for a new year. So I'm going to hold on to that positive. And even if you aren't optimistic about this new year, it's understandable. We've been through a lot. Country-wise, a lot. Globally, a lot. Okay, we've been through a lot. But you done made it this far. You might as well try your best to enjoy it. So do the things you didn't think you could do last year and come into this new year and, I don't know, just try your best. That's all I'm going to say. Try your best, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try my best, okay? If I can try my best, you can too. But let's get into this review. So, y'all know sometimes before we get in to the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I honestly only have like 2 topics to talk to you guys about. One is going to be an after show clip. The other one is we finally got the reunion looks, like the actual like still shots. And I did do a spicy corner review where I talked about the outfits. I'm not sure if I'm going to have the same critique, but I want to get into it now that we have like the official photos. I don't know why when they released that one still of all of them at the reunion, they just didn't release what they normally do, which is the Bravo Insider arc with the ladies, and it tells us what they have on. I'm going to link that below, but I'm also going to link the other video below where I talked about them with the minimal like coverage of what we got of what they had on. So the first thing I want to talk about is the after show. So shouts out to Housewife Hub, and they said this on Twitter. It says hashtag RHOSLC after show clip. Meredith reacts to some of the women's classifying her behavior as erratic, saying if they were treated the way that they treat me, I would love to see what their behavior is. She explains that she is actually very calm and composed, but believes the women have a goal of upsetting her by poking and prodding and wrongfully accusing her of things. Lisa Barlow says she does not feel Meredith was being erratic and adds that Meredith is simply reacting emotionally to what the other women are doing to her. So let me play that clip for you guys.
During this trip, some of your friends classified your behavior as erratic. Was there anything going on that you didn't want to share with them?
Meredith's going through something. And that is taking a toll on her mental. I really think so. The way she's acting and her behavior, something's going on.
Yeah.
I have plenty going on that I don't share with the group, because why would I be vulnerable with people who are looking to hurt me? I think I'm very calm. I think I'm very composed. I think that these women have a goal of making me get upset, and they like to poke and prod and poke and prod and poke and prod and wrongfully accuse me of all kinds of things, and they'll set me up with this one saying, you should talk more, so you start talking. The next one's like, don't talk. If they were treated the way they treat me, I would love to see what their behavior is.
Some of the women on the trip feel like Meredith is acting like erratically?
No.
Did you make any observations like that?
No, I didn't. When you're in a group of girls and you know that your friends are not being your friend, you put up a different kind of wall. She's reacting emotionally to what they're saying and doing to her. There's times where you're like emotional about something because you can feel what other people are doing, saying, how they're treating you, so you adjust your own energy. And that's all I see happening is she's like feeling their negative energy and put up a wall about it. And I stick up for her a lot. That bothers them. They don't want me sticking up for Meredith. They want her isolated, alone, so she feels even more on the outs with everyone. I don't like it. I don't think it's nice.
We're asking Lisa to step back and allow Meredith to communicate and find her voice with friends.
I just don't like you guys telling me what to do and what not to do. I don't like it. If I want to stand up for her, I will stand up for her.
I'm sick of my marriage being talked about. I'm sick of my business, my marriage, my face, my faith, all of it. I'm sick of it. Put yourself in Meredith's shoes. She's going through the same thing. They do the exact same thing to her. That's why I jump in and I'm like, this is wrong. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we can't take Meredith down because Lisa's here. So now we're going to target our energy at Lisa. This has been years and years of some of these women really just trying to put a thorn between me and Lisa. I don't know why they are so afraid of us being friends. It is so weird. I don't care who's friends with who. I hope they're all friends with each other, whether I get along with them or not. You should be friends with whoever you want to be friends with. Who cares? If you're somebody's friend, you're not looking to decimate them in a group. Ding, in a group. Ding, ding, ding.
Here's the thing. I can understand why the women think Meredith's behavior is erratic based off of what they are saying, but I don't like how they're framing it. If they truly cared about Meredith, they would approach her in a different way. They would not be using accusatory language. You would have actually sat down with your friend and tried to have a like caring and civil conversation with her. And we have yet to really see that, only with Mary. because, and I do believe that Mary actually cares about Meredith based off of her crying in the episode. But when initially the whole plane situation happened, Mary met her with kindness first. And then she kind of like slowly got more like stern with her, like, no, girl, that's not what happened. But she's never coming, it does not feel like Mary's coming from a place to like, what's the word? Tear down Meredith. I'm thinking of a different word, but I can't think of it right. Tear Meredith down. So I don't like that they're calling her erratic when I'm like, a lot of y'all's behavior could be deemed that way to certain people. We all used to think Mary was, at least I know, I thought Mary was a little, I still kind of do. Okay, a little erratic there, but it's calmed down. But even when you look at the way that Heather behaves or Whitney, Bronwyn, girl, you not to be trusted. I told y'all about Bronwyn, and everybody tried to tell me when she got on here during season 5 that I was being too harsh on that lady. But I see her. I see that lady. But I'm just saying, like, I call Meredith a slow burn housewife. Because to me, she is. Like, Meredith starts off the initial season, I'm very much indifferent towards her. I'm like, okay, Meredith's here. Okay, cool, whatever. I can take or leave her. But there's always something that happens in the middle of the season. It's like a catalyst. And then we see Meredith engaging the rest of the season. And when I think about it, as a viewer, I enjoy that aspect of Meredith. I put Meredith in the same box as Shannon Bedore from Real Housewives of Orange County. When Sharon has her freak out moment, when she told Katie, I'm done with you, Katie Janelle. Like, when she freaks out, I'm here for it. Same with Meredith. You can leave. Like, I'm there for the theatrics and stuff, but I can see that being jarring to people that you're filming with them for months. Like, for 6 months, and the first, like, 3 to 4 months, you're calm, you're cool, you're not really into it with people. You may have spats here or there, but you're good. But then something happens, and then the rest of the season, you cussing everybody out. You're very much engaged, and you real nasty about it. And it's like, that can be jarring. Some people would deem that as erratic behavior, but I just don't like how the ladies are trying to frame it under, especially, and it's more so coming from Heather and Whitney. Oh, we're worried about Meredith. We care about her. You don't. I would respect it more if you would just be like, look, I don't like you right now. I wanted you to have my back when we were coming at Lisa, and you didn't. So this is how it's going. I can see that you're an enabler and you're a part of the problem. Because I like how Lisa pointed out in the after show that because she stood up for Meredith, now it seems like they're coming for her. And they are, because they want Meredith to be isolated, which is true. They want her to be isolated, so it either forces Meredith to act out of character, or it's a way to get her off the show. Because it does kind of feel like Heather and Whitney are trying to set Brittany up to take Meredith's spot, if you ask me. So let's get into these reunion looks. So like I said initially, I do have a video where I spoke about the ladies' outfits, but it was just pictures that they posted and that Bravo clip where we see the ladies taking these pictures or walking onto the stage, and I just got still shots of them. And I was confused as to why they would post the reunion photo of them all standing on stage, yet they didn't give us what the ladies were wearing, or, you know, the normal spiel of like, oh, this is what this person is wearing, and give us like the single shots. So they posted this like on December the 23rd, and since everyone was so like, you know, obsessed with Christmas during that time, I don't think anybody noticed. I know I didn't notice until I saw somebody else talking about it. So let's get into this. Okay, so first up is Brittany, because I totally forgot about Brittany. I do not remember talking about Brittany in my initial video. The link will be in the description box below. But I don't remember talking about Brittany because I didn't see her in that video when they were walking onto the stage. So it says this. Brittany says, I'm wearing an Oscar de la Renta with some Christian Louboutin heels and some huge yellow diamonds and a beautiful pearl-shaped diamond necklace. Brittany told the Daily Dish of her Grecian goddess of the sun look. I mean, this looks pretty on Brittany. I would give Brittany, if I had to rate it, an 8. I like her with brown hair. She actually looks a lot more better. Like, a lot more better is not the phrase I was looking for. She looks youthful with this on. It goes with her childish personality, okay? But the brown hair actually looks really nice on her. I do wish that it was cut, though. Instead of having the long hair, I wish it was above her bodice because she has this sweetheart neckline, but she looks pretty. So I would give Brittany an 8. So moving on, let's talk about Whitney. Whitney said this dress is very fun, girly, so I just wanted to change it up this year and be a little more elegant. Whitney told the Daily Dish backstage, I know it's going to be a bloodbath today, so I wanted to make sure I look like a queen. Whitney, just don't give queen. And them shoes don't give queen either. They give shoe encore and shoe department. Okay, it's not giving, or the shoe depot. It's not giving that, girl. I don't like her hair. It's very plain. I like the dress on her, but I remember my critique that I gave her initially was I wanted the waist to be cinched in, and I still stand by that. I think the dress would have looked better if it gave her a figure. It just feels like it goes straight down when it should have just went like this. You know, give us that hourglass, okay? We know Whitney has a nice body, but I would give this, I give it a 7. It's all right. You know, I feel like if her hair was different, I may bump it up to a 7.5, but them shoes ain't it, girl. So next is Bronwyn. It says this, Bronwyn went for a light reference to a Greek goddess in her second ever RHOSLC reunion look. We just decided for really big hair, all of the secrets and receipts I'm bringing out to the reunion. That doesn't make sense. We just decided for really big hair because of all of the secrets and receipts I'm bringing out to the reunion. She explains to the Daily Dish backstage, I guess. I think this is nice for Bronwyn. I've give Bronwyn a 7.5. I have the same critique that I have for Whitney, which was like, I wish the waist was cinched in. But now that I know the theme is like Greek goddess, this does give that. I think I may have scored her lower in my initial video, but a 7.5. I don't like her shoes, but I think the hair goes with this outfit. I think if she would have had the shortcut, it would have been jarring. So I think the longer hair looks nicer on her. Then let's go with Meredith. It says Meredith and her hairstylist explained to the Daily Dish backstage that they went for a loose wavy vibe on the hair and stuck. They went for a loose wavy vibe and stuck to their usual routine for the makeup look. My makeup doesn't vary all that much. It's pretty much neutral tones and soft, but not too heavy, Meredith explains. I think I gave this a 7. Or maybe a 6.5 in my initial video. I think a 6.5 because this reminds me of what she had on in last reunion. I mean, she doesn't look bad, but it's like there's no variation. But I do think this color is pretty on Meredith. Yeah. So continuing on, let's talk about Angie. Angie is still best dressed for me. I think I gave Angie an 8 and I'm sticking to the 8. And actually, this looks good on her. I wish she would have had a necklace, but she looks pretty. So this is what Angie says. Look, I was kind of overthinking it at first and I wanted to do something super Greeky. Angie explains to the Daily Dish backstage. And then I just decided I'm going to do red. Thank God, girl. She says, I feel like it's a standout. She added for her look, I think it's going to be gorgeous against the backdrop. It's elegant and timeless, and I really just wanted to go for a timeless and sophisticated. I don't want to look back on this in 20 years and have worn a sequined Greek flag. Yeah, that, girl. This is not a Miss Universe pageant. She goes on to say, I just decided to go for a timeless goddess vibe and just something more elegant and sophisticated. I think it looks nice, and I still think Angie for me would be best dressed. Right now, it's Angie, then Brittany, and then Bronwyn. So moving on, we have Heather. Heather says, I'm wearing a teal dress with gold jewelry and gold shoes. Heather says backstage for her Grecian-inspired look, everything came together at the last week. I don't like this. It feels costumey-esque with the cape. And it's giving praise dancer. And like the gloves Mary has on, that's all Heather needs is gloves and white face paint. Girl, and she cutting a mean turn when they do total praise. Just the hands. Or if you are a black church kid, you know what I'm talking about, okay? So yeah, I think I would give Heather a 6 because it's not bad, but I don't like it. Then we have Mary. I don't like this, but I like Mary, so I'm gonna just give this a 6. I hate the gloves. I know Mary wants to be modest, and I get it. She's a pastor, but there are so many like stylists out there who like dress people modestly that could give her like an elevated style, especially when it comes to these reunions. Like, girl, I don't like it. But this is what Mary has to say. She says, as Mary explained to the Daily Dish, I love my dress. It's beautiful. I love the color and I love the simpleness of it, but yet powerful. Okay. 6. And then lastly, we have Miss Lisa Barlow. So this is what Lisa has to say. I love my look so much, Lisa told the Daily Dish as she got ready for the reunion. Glam inspired by Kim Kardashian, Morgan Miller is here doing the makeup. Brooke Raymond is here doing the hair. I am wearing a gorgeous fitted Alex Perry dress with Stephanie, I think is, let me Google to see how we sound this out. How do I pronounce? Galibi? Ooh, girl. I know I butchered that. Amazing vintage gold choker with diamonds. It's insanity. But I love my whole look. It's very Lisa Barlow. Listen, I'm a New York girl, she added. We do simple chic. We don't do exaggerated prom. I mean, it is simple and chic, but I'll give Lisa the same critique I gave Meredith, which is we've seen it before, so I would give her a 7 because it doesn't look bad, and I do like the color on Lisa, but it's like, girl, I need you to switch it up. This bone straight hair, you got to let go of the bust down, Lisa, with the middle part. We need you to like when I tell you, if Lisa came out with a bob, and I mean a blunt bob or a pixie cut, oh, she would gag everybody. The girls would probably eat it up. But I give Lisa a 7. Overall, again, my best dress would be Angie at the top, then Brittany, and then Bronwyn. And then everybody else, y'all figure it out below. But I would give collectively the girls a C+, because there's no cohesion. And y'all know I love a theme, and I wish the girls also picked a color, because we all go into different places. But let's get into this review. All right, y'all, so let's get into this episode. Honestly, it felt like a throwaway episode. I'm going to be honest, I really thought that we weren't going to get this episode until January the 6th. Shouts out to my little cousin, because that's her birthday. And then today is January the 2nd, which is my Poppy's birthday. So shouts out to him. And then my birthday's on the 12th, okay? Birthdays back to back. Shouts out to all my Capricorns, even my December brothers and sisters, my siblings, okay? January Capricorns are better. Just, it's a fact. I'm playing. I'm playing. But, I just assumed that we were going to get that episode or this episode on the 6th. But I'm guessing they want the first like real official week of January, sans, the New Year holiday and all that stuff to be explosive, because we have Real Housewives of Real Housewives of Potomac and Married to Medicine come back on the 4th. Then on the 6th is the season finale of Salt Lake City. And then also there's like this explosive episode of Vanderpump Rules. I don't watch it, but I saw a sneak peek for that episode, and it looked like them girls gonna be fighting in that club the next episode. So that's that. Then you have Beverly Hills coming back. But I think people are going to be excited because on that same Thursday, the Valley Persian style is coming back. So, all the Shahs of Sunset fans are probably going to be watching that. So I feel like they're trying to make sure that the first week of January, official week of January, is actually like engaging, because this episode didn't really give that. It really just felt like we just need to put something out there. So here you are, But the episode opens up and we are still in Greece, and it's their 3rd day there. You see Lisa sitting down at the kitchen table eating breakfast, and then you see everybody else, trying to get up, like brushing their teeth, waking up out of their sleep. And we also see one of the hotel workers. This guy comes in and he's dropping off their breakfast food. He leaves and then he comes back with another tray. Angie comes into the area, into the kitchen as well, but she runs smack dab into the guy. And I was wondering, is their villa like elevated? Like, are they up high so you have to walk up steps? Because I was confused how she did not see him. Because I'm like, if he turned the corner, or or maybe it's a sharp corner. I'm not sure, but either way, they collided, and one of the cups or whatever, the glass that was on the tray actually cut inside of Angie's lip, and there was food everywhere. I thought there was blood on the wall, but it looked like jam and jelly when I looked at it the second time I watched the episode. So I was like, that's a lot of blood if that really came from Angie. So everyone's like, Angie, are you okay? So she goes into this room. I think she was in Bronwyn's room. And Angie is like, checking her lips, trying to see how bad the damage is. She says in her confessional that, this makes her getting her finger smashed in when they were on the yacht look like child's play. And I said, girl, I don't know what Angie got going on. Maybe she need to do a cleanse or something. But because I think of like, when people say they're accident prone, I think of people just slipping and falling. Like, I don't think about people like slicing their fingers open or busting a lip, but I guess that's a part of accidents, and you have Bronwyn in her confessional saying, Angie's lip filler was like a seatbelt. It saved her life. It saved her nose. She also told Angie, girl, you need to get a reusable ice pack, because it's the second time. And I'm like, yeah, Bronwyn does have a point. So Lisa is trying to make sure she's okay. You then see Mary poke her head into the room, and she's like, girl, did you hurt yourself again, Angie? And Angie's like, yeah. And Mary's like, my God, Angie. So then we end up seeing Lisa go out by the pool where Meredith is. Meredith is just like, taking a beat. She has the little eye things underneath her eyes. And she was like, oh, I'm going to be out here for 20 minutes. She compliments Lisa on her makeup. Lisa's like, yes, I love it. I wish I could take the makeup artist back to America with me. So then Lisa's like, you seem like you're in a better mood and in good spirits. And Meredith's like, yes, I finally got to sleep last night. I slept like a rock. And Lisa's like, oh, that's great. And Lisa says that I think I slept really well after drinking all them pina coladas. So then they flash back to when they were at the club on the last episode. And I wish we would have seen this. Like, yes, we want to see the girls argue and fight and all of that stuff, but this was actually cute, seeing them like dancing, Lisa doing party tricks on the floor. I'm like, yes, give us the mess, but also kind of balance it out by us seeing the ladies actually have fun with each other. So in the confessional, Meredith is saying, she wants to start off this day with like positive, like vibes on a positive note and all this stuff. She's like, we're in Greece, we're friends. She was like, I want to be able to look back on this moment and say that I at least had a little bit of fun while I was there. I don't want to be fighting every single day. So Meredith is trying to have a good, positive day. We then see Angie talking to this lady by the name of Artemis, who is bringing these women these beautiful gowns. She's also a part of this like photography group where they take pictures of people on the beautiful like white architecture that they have in Greece on the steps of, I'm probably going to say this wrong. I think it's Athea or Thea. I think that's how Angie said it. But, most of us have seen these pictures. If not, it's like when people flare out their dresses and then you get this beautiful background of the sea and all of this stuff. A really nice vibe. So everyone gets to pick their dresses. And Lisa is like complaining because she doesn't want to dress up. She's like, normally when I have on my outfits, everyone's almost like, oh my God, girl, I die to get that outfit because I take time to make my outfits. But she was like, the only other time I really liked us dressing up is when all of them dressed up like me. And they were talking about last season, that was actually funny. But I feel like Lisa is just complaining just to complain in this moment, because to me, this is not like a costume. It's a dress. Like, it'd be totally different if they did have you guys in costumes. But I also understand, like, when you take pictures, you want to be able to, like, pick the right outfit, get it tailored, especially if these are supposed to be gorgeous photos and stuff like that. But also, Lisa, stop complaining. Like, just stop. So they get there. We meet Artemis's friend or boss or whoever who's the photographer, and they take this one group photo. I think the two dresses that I would have or worn if I were doing this was Mary's, because it's yellow, and yellow is one of my favorite colors, and I like Angie's red dress, but I really like Brittany's dress. So Brittany and Mary would be the two dresses that I would like to wear. I actually like Lisa's purple, but I wish it was a little bit darker. And I also wish they ironed the dresses. Like, the wrinkles were killing me. The wrinkles were killing me. And I was so like, Mary, I know Mary is committed to being modest, but I was like, girl, you telling me you can't show a little bit of shoulder, a little bit of skin? I don't know. I hate that she put that shirt underneath her outfit or that shawl. I did not like it. So the girls are hyping each other up as they're taking pictures, and they're having a really good time. You know, Brittany is taking her pictures, talking about like, if I like, you know, I feel like the goddess, I think she said Eos, who is the goddess of morning sky. She's feeling the vibe. Now, I will say the picture that they got of Brittany, I think probably came out really pretty, especially the angle of where the camera was, because the way that the Artemis, the assistant, when she flared out the dress, it flowed perfectly. I said, girl, that's going to be a cute pic. Okay. That's going to be nice. All right. And so Mary said she would be the goddess of realness. You have Heather saying she'd be the goddess of feta if it didn't smell weird. I like feta cheese to a certain extent, but I've never tasted feta in the sense of it tasting good outside of it being in a salad, or like in a, like, I used to get these sandwiches all the time in college. They were Greek salad sandwiches. Oh, them things used to hit. Oh my gosh. I have yet to find a place that makes really good Greek salad sandwiches. And it was vegan. It was so good. But yeah, I have yet to have feta when it's not like in a salad form, and it tastes good to me. So Meredith says that she would be the Greek god of swimming so she could get her caviar. And while she's taking her pictures, you see a conversation happening on the side where Heather and Whitney are whispering. So I think it was Whitney who was like, have you noticed how happy Meredith is today? And Heather's like, yeah, she seems like the old Meredith. So then Bronwyn is like, what y'all talking about? You know, being nosy. And she was like, why are y'all whispering? Can I whisper with y'all too? And so Whitney ends up telling her, well, we're just talking about Meredith's personality. It seems like a really big comeback from what we saw yesterday. It was like ever since the pool, when we are hanging out, she seems like she's in a really good mood. And Whitney was like, I hope this lasts for the whole entire trip. And Heather says, girl, it probably won't, because the pattern of her behavior, by tomorrow morning, she's going to be over it. And so they kind of laugh about it. But I'm like, it kind of feels like Meredith just can't win with Heather or Whitney. It's like either they... Like, it's weird, because on one hand, they want Meredith to behave the way that she's behaving. Like Heather says, the old Meredith, where she's getting along, she's smiling, she's having a good time. But then you're kind of like slick, feeling as though it's fake. And you're being like, well, it's not going to last that long. But then you're mad when she acts the other way. So it's like, can she win with y'all? Because right now it feels like she can't. So the next thing we see is the ladies break up into groups where Mary, Bronwyn, and Whitney go in to get lunch, and then the rest of the ladies go to a spa. So the next thing we have is of Mary, Bronwyn, and Whitney going to lunch. Beautiful view at the restaurant that they're at. Gorgeous view. I wish Mary did not have this conversation with Whitney, because Whitney cannot be trusted. Whitney is basically Ashley Darby, just the white form. Okay, they probably cousins down the line somewhere, because the way in which both Whitney and Ashley will take people's vulnerabilities and like throw those things in their faces. I was like, Mary, you are a pastor. Do you not have the power of discernment? Because I'm like, why would you have this conversation with Bronwyn and Whitney of all people? Because Bronwyn is an opportunist, and she's hella hypocritical. Like, a lot of hypocritical stuff was happening in this episode. Lisa and Meredith were being hypocritical. Bronwyn's a hypocrite. Like, just hypocritical, girl. So is Heather. Heather's a hypocrite, and Whitney's a hypocrite. My God, today. But it was just kind of like, Bronwyn Bronwyn wants to be included in groups so badly that you could not be friends with someone like Bronwyn, because Bronwyn will throw away a good friendship just to be a part of the clique. Because the way in which she dropped this story about Seth and her bumping into him in New York, I was like, have you, one, been sitting on this information, or two, you want to be a part of this conversation and you just don't want to sit here, so you're adding this story in there. Either way, I didn't like it because, well, let me save it to when we get to that point. But basically, they're sitting at this table, and Whitney brings up how her and Meredith had this moment because they both had on blue dresses for the photo shoot, and they walked into the area together. They were holding each other's dresses, and she said it was actually nice. Bronwyn being sarcastic, which it was spot on sarcasm, so you get a point from me, Bronwyn, where she was like, oh my gosh, you guys have come a long way since your lunch yesterday, and I giggled at that. And Whitney was like, well, it was unexpected, but it was actually really nice. So as they're sitting there, you then end up hearing Mary say, I'm actually really concerned about Meredith. She's like, I mean, it's very obvious that she's going through something, and I'm worried. And so Whitney's like, I'm worried too. And I'm like, oh, Mary. And so as they're sitting there, Whitney ends up talking about how Meredith's behavior is similar to her father's. And she basically says that like her father would have mood swings, and then at one point he would just like rage out very quickly. And she says, what led her to actually speak about this finally was the fact that Meredith was raging out, but she could not calm herself down on the plane. And she was like, I've never seen Meredith be that way before. She was like, she also doesn't like the fact that Meredith either, one, is not acknowledging what she did and won't take accountability, or two, she does not remember what happened and she doesn't want to take accountability for it. And Whitney says there's something definitely going on with Meredith. And so then Mary ends up saying Meredith just needs some help. And so Brahman is like, what do you mean by that, Mary? And Mary was like, I just feel like she's very fragile, and that's not my Meredith. Like, I really do feel like Mary is genuinely concerned about Meredith, and that's why I just don't get why she had this conversation with these two women. Like, girl, you could have had this conversation with Angie or even Lisa, but not Whitney and Bronwyn. So then Whitney ends up saying she feels like Meredith is going through something and it's taking a toll on her mental health. She goes on to say that the way that she's been acting, her behavior is kind of been a lot. She was like, Meredith has been going through a lot of high highs and a lot of low lows, and then too many middles. And I'm like, well, don't you want her to be medium and in the middle? But she's just like, things are just not adding up. She was like, one day she can be mad, but then the next day she'll be okay. And then the next day she'll be livid. And then the next day she'll be raging out. And then Bronwyn was like, sometimes it's not even the next day. It could all happen in one day. And so then Mary starts to get emotional, saying like what saddens her is that it doesn't seem like Meredith realizes her behavior. Like she doesn't know what's going on, or she doesn't see it, or she's ignoring it. And so Mary starts to get really emotional and starts to cry. And you have Bronwyn being like, I know, Mary, I know. And Mary's like, I'm so sorry. And so then Mary says, I just see that she's suffering, and like it's tearing me up inside. She was like, I don't know how to help her, but she was like, I know she has to help herself. And so then Mary talks about how like when she loves somebody, she'll overlook their behavior. She says she's dealt with it with her son. And she was like, I know my kid when he's in control and when he's out of control of his emotions, and I recognize it more now. So then in the confessional, Mary ends up saying with the case of Meredith, she was like, I'm hoping Meredith is all right, but Meredith is not saying anything to us. She's not telling us anything. And she says she missed the signs with her son, but she's not going to do that anymore. She was like, now I can see and tell when things are not okay. So then Whitney is over there faking like she's so concerned, and she's like, I feel we all know what's going on, but we just don't want to talk about it. We just don't want to talk about it, Mary. But like, I know. So then Mary ends up ending the conversation by saying amen. And I said, Mary, that's how you end the conversation? And then this is where I felt like Bronwyn just wanted to say something because she felt like she was being left out of the scene, because there was no reason for her to tell us this story about Seth or sit on this story. And like I said, this was a very hypocritical move from her, because she ends up saying, I'm also worried about something too. She's like, so I've been thinking about it for a couple of months now, and I didn't know how I wanted to talk about it. And so they're like, what are you talking about? So then Bronwyn ends up saying that she ran into Seth when she was in New York. And Todd and her were at this Italian restaurant, and we get stopped, and because we see Seth and we're like, oh, hey Todd, like, hey Seth, hey Todd, we're doing the whole pleasantries. And she says, it kind of felt weird, but I wasn't gonna say anything. So then you end up hearing Mary say, girl, what are you trying to say, Bronwyn? Like, what are you saying? So then Bronwyn is saying, I'm saying I saw Seth with a woman at a restaurant. And Mary's like, shut up. Are you serious? Are you serious? And Bronwyn was like, yeah. She was like, my first thought was not like he's cheating, but it's starting to feel like maybe this is why Meredith is so defensive. And she goes on to say that, when you're going through something, this is kind of what happens. She was like, when I was going through something with Todd, like, it was a lie. I was very reactionary. I was very defensive. She was like, when you're not in a good place with your partner and it's rocky, it is very scary. You do get defensive and you don't like people talking about your relationship and you get very protective over it. And she was like, well, maybe that's why she's been having issues with controlling her emotions and like lashing out, because she can't handle everything all at once because of him potentially cheating. So then I think Mary ends up saying, like, I feel like there's stuff going on, but she also says that, like, when something is not true, you don't react the way that Meredith is reacting. Like, you kind of just let it fall out like water's off a duck's back, but Meredith's reaction is kind of telling that there possibly may be something going on. So then I think it was Bronwyn or Mary or maybe Whitney that end up saying, like, what do we do? Like, how do we help? And then the scene ends there. Again, I just wish that Mary wouldn't have had this conversation with Whitney and Bronwyn, because I was just like, these are two people that Meredith does not have. Like, Bronwyn, I guess, but Whitney, that lady don't like her. And why would you have this conversation? Just so the next group is Angie, Brittany, Heather, Lisa, and Meredith. They go to the spa. When they get into the spa, there's a sign that says, like, I think it says, this is a quiet zone. Thank you for respecting the environment, or something to that effect. So they're supposed to be quiet at the spa, or at least talk. When they do talk, whisper only. So as they are entering the place, you hear Angie say this one. I think she was pointing to Lisa. She was like, when this one gets mad, she gets loud, which is true. And then Meredith is in the confessional saying, like, this group only has 2 volumes, loud and louder. So first they get into this pool, but it was like a zigzag shape. Like, it was a ramp leading in, or you could go into steps, but it was like you walk around it or something like that. Everyone's whispering to each other, laughing and giggling and all of that stuff. And then next thing you know, Brittany gets into the pool and she's like, like screaming. And they're like, Brittany, hush. Like, we're supposed to be quiet. And so as she's in the pool, she's like flicking water at everybody. She flicked it on like Lisa and Angie, and then she flicked it at Meredith. So Angie is like, she thinks she's funny, but she's not funny. She's childish. And they're like, Brittany, stop doing that. We don't want to get our hair wet before we go to dinner. We don't want to have to do our hair before we go to dinner. Then you have Meredith saying, girl, she's acting like a 2-year-old. Like, she just splashed me like a 2-year-old. Heather's in the confessional saying Brittany's doing what she does best, which is being Brittany and being all la-da-da-da-da-da-da and getting on people's nerves. So they end up getting out of the pool. And as they're getting out of the pool, Brittany is in the confessional saying, we're in Greece. I want to have some fun, because everyone's asking Brittany, why are you doing that? And she was like, I just want to have some little fun. And so Brittany was like, y'all can't take a bit of little splashing for me, even though y'all drenched me with water on the yacht trip, which is true because they flash back to it. But I also feel like there's a time and a place. I can understand Brittany being like, it's not that deep. I just flicked water at you. But I can also understand, like, girl, that was on the yacht when y'all were having fun. Y'all are at the spa. Y'all walked into the establishment knowing that this was a quiet zone. So why would you start to play games like that? So I get why the girls are frustrated with her. So they end up like getting out of the pool. They're sitting in these robes and like drinking like water or tea. And they're sitting in these little comfy couches. So as they're sitting there, Lisa ends up asking Brittany, like, why would you do that? Like, she just got a fresh blowout on her hair. And Brittany is like, well, I was just trying to liven the mood. And Lisa's like, girl, it's a zen state of mind. Like, we didn't need you to liven the mood. So Angie's like, yeah, why did you do that? Because it took me a long time to blow out my hair when I have a messed up finger. And then you hear Angie give her regimen of like how she does her hair, how she scissors product through her hair, and how she blow dries it out to make it look like glass. I said, okay, girl. So then Lisa ends up telling her, girl, your hair is synthetic. It doesn't take long to do. And then Brittany was like, my hair is not synthetic. It's real hair. It grew out of real. Basically, she told that girl, yeah, your tape-ins are cheap. Like, them clip-ins in your head is cheap. I said, oh my God. And honestly, there is a difference between human hair and synthetic hair. As someone who has like synthetic wigs, and I also have human hair wigs, there is a difference, a complete difference. So I can understand being frustrated. Like, you get a synthetic wig wet, you might not have to deal with it. It dries pretty quickly. A human hair wig, it dries like human hair. Like, it's going to take a minute. You might have to blow dry it out. And then by the end of the day, it's still damped if you don't like blow dry it out. So I was giggling. I giggled at that. So as they're sitting there, Brittany switches the conversation to being upset with the ladies for not checking up on her about Olivia not texting her on Mother's Day. She ends up saying, like, none of y'all checked up on me, and she's pissed about it. And then Meredith jumps in and she was like, well, why are you so upset when the other day you had some nasty things to say about me being upset about missing a call from my son? And so it flashes back to when Meredith is like, I'm hurt by this, and I am upset. I won't get the chance to talk to him, and I wanted to talk to Brooks. And then Brittany jumps in and she was like, well, I haven't spoken to my kids in 3 years. And that's when Meredith is like, girl, it's always about you, isn't it, girl? So as they're sitting there talking, Brittany reiterates that she didn't see her kids for 3 years. And then Lisa clocked her because Lisa ended up saying, you did that, that happened based off of the actions that you took. And so Brittany is very taken aback by that. She was like, it wasn't based off of the actions and the choices that I made. And then Lisa's like, well, no, you said and you told us to the group that you have put men before your children before. So it was based off of your own actions. That is what you told us. And so then Brittany was like, yes, I did say that. But she was like, I said that in a self-deprecating way, not for you guys to judge me. And she was like, when you're comparing our situations, and she's pointing to her and Meredith, she was like, that's apples to oranges. So then Meredith is like, no, because you use your kids to deflect. I don't do that. Meredith, you do. All of y'all kind of do that from time to time. And Meredith ends up saying, you were in the middle of an argument and you just started crying about your kids. So it flashes back to when they were arguing about the whole like trademarking high body count hair. And you do see Brittany kind of spontaneously start crying about the trademark and saying, you guys are talking about the length of my hair. And she was like, it's just the worst Mother's Day ever for me. She was like, nobody cares. Nobody called or texted me. And then you hear Heather say, it's still early. We 8 hours ahead. I said, them kids not calling you. They don't like you, Brittany. I will say they don't like you, but it's just like Brittany has not built. She hasn't built a rapport with her children. Your children did not speak to you for 3 years, and you think that just because you and Olivia have started going to therapy, she was just going to reach out to you and say Happy Mother's Day. You haven't done anything to earn back their trust or respect for you to garner a Happy Mother's Day, girl. And she definitely started crying to deflect from getting ate up. Because just like she's doing in this conversation, what does Olivia not texting you on Mother's Day have to do with any of this? Because you're the one that did something that pissed somebody off. What? And so they're sitting there. And then this is when you hear Lisa say, honestly, girl, I thought you was fake crying. And Lisa's like, what? No, not Meredith. Brittany's like, what? You thought I was fake crying? And then Lisa's in the confessional saying, it's like Brittany has a checklist. I'm going to cry about Olivia. I need empathy because I'm losing this argument. Cry, cry, cry about my daughters. Okay, everyone feel bad for me. I need more attention. But Lisa, you kind of do that too in fights. Girl, you know I like you. But you do start crying when you get really, and I don't know if it's crying because you're so upset that you can't articulate yourself or if you're crying to deflect, but ma'am, you have cried several times in a fight. You have, girl. And so Brittany was like, do you think I was fake crying? Are you just saying that just to hurt me, or did you really feel that way? And Lisa ends up saying, girl, you're just very dramatic, so I just assumed that it was fake. And then Heather was like, no, girl, Lisa, it was real. I really felt it. And so then Meredith was like, well, it seems like you did that because you needed to garner sympathy. Like, that's what it is. So then Brittany was like, I don't think so. And then Brittany says, it's sad that I can't even speak up. And I'm just sick of walking on eggshells with Meredith. What does walking on eggshells with Meredith have to do with this situation when you're the one that caused this? You are splashing water on them. They told you to stop. You said, they asked you, why did you do that? You said to lighten the mood. Then the argument transitioned because you brought up your child. You brought up Olivia not texting you. And then you tried to compare it to, well, no, Meredith jumped in and compared, like, why would you be nasty to me when you haven't even spoken to your kids? And all of a sudden you're comparing the situations. Like, you brought this onto yourself. You're not walking on eggshells. You're actively like stepping on them. Like, you're crushing them, girl, because you're being very direct with her. So as they're sitting there, they're going back and forth about garnering sympathy. The lady that checked them into the spa is like, can you guys be quiet? They have guests that are complaining. So they were like, oh, we're so sorry. So then Lisa ends up telling Brittany, girl, look, you can't chastise the way that she mothers her kids if you don't want nobody to chastise the way that you mother your kids. And then Brittany ends up saying, well, you're trying to compare our relationships, and that's not the case. And then Meredith ends up telling her, girl, I've worked extremely hard to have the relationships I have with my children. So don't even compare your shit to mine. Okay, I am not a messed up parent like you. And I said, speak on, Meredith, speak on. So then Meredith says, you know what, don't do that with me. She was like, you know what, I'm done with this conversation. So Meredith gets up, grabs her stuff. She's like, you're a despicable person. I don't like you. So then Brittany's like, disengage, Meredith. Do what you always do. And so then in the confessional, Angie was like, girl, really? She was like, we had this one moment where Meredith was having a good time. Meredith was cool. Everybody was having fun. And then here comes the kid's sister, even though Brittany is older than all of them and close to 60, because I think she's 54 years old. Everybody else is younger than her, but they're referring to her as the kid sister because she's that childish. And she's like, now you poked the bear, and Meredith's annoyed and she's over it. And Brittany doesn't really have anything to say. It's just like, and then they're all like, girl, are you going to start stealing people's catchphrases? Because why did you need to say disengage? And why are you telling her to move and all this stuff? Just stupid. So we about to blitz our way through this because this video is way longer than I expected. It always is like this, but hey, we here. So the ladies are back at the villa and everyone is getting ready for that night to go eat dinner. We actually see a conversation between Whitney and Heather where Whitney is telling Heather the conversation that she had with Mary, because Heather's like, so how was it? And Whitney is like, oh, it was a beautiful day. We actually had a conversation with Mary, and she was like, it was kind of sad because she really sees what we see with Meredith. And Heather's like, oh, for real? Like, I was like, see, Mary, this is why you shouldn't have had this conversation with Whitney. So as they're standing there, Heather's like, what did Mary say? And Whitney pretty much is like, she sees the changes in Meredith like we see them. So in the confessional, Heather is like, she's happy that someone else sees the changes in Meredith that they have seen, and they're concerned about it and a little freaked out that maybe they can, I guess, get Meredith to see the error of her ways. Okay. So while they're doing that, Whitney ends up saying, because they're also like steaming clothes. I didn't say that. Heather put too much water in the steamer because when it turned on, it shot out. My parents have a steamer and all of that good stuff. And so you can't overfill it, and they're lucky they didn't get burned because I've been burned by the steam before. But Whitney basically says she was wondering if she was going to continue chasing this friendship with Meredith, but having the conversation with Mary pretty much put it in perspective that she realized that she really does care about Meredith and she wants to be there for her. I call cap on this. Until I really see Whitney be genuine with Meredith, I don't believe anything she's saying, because there's the way in which Whitney speaks. It's like a higher inflection when she talks about Meredith that makes it feel fake. Whereas when she talks about actual serious things that happen to her or things that she feels like are really personal to her, her voice is a little, I won't say it's normal because Whitney does have a higher voice, but it's like, it's even keeled, you know? So we see all the ladies pile into the Sprinter, and next thing you know, we see that Lisa ends up explaining to the ladies that she likes trees. She explains that she read this book called The Secret of the Trees, or The Secret Language of Trees. I thought it was a cute little fact about Lisa. I thought Heather was being kind of like a hater because she was like, no trees are talking to Lisa. Now, it was funny when she was saying that like if trees were talking to Lisa, they wouldn't be able to get anything in because Lisa would overtalk them. And when she mimicked Lisa, I thought that was funny because I was like, that's probably true. But I'm also like, I do think it's kind of nice that Lisa is someone who's kind of into that stuff. Like, I think it's true. I mean, I could see Lisa lying about this, but I do think it's true. Some people you wouldn't believe what they're into. Like there's certain things that I'm into that people are like, you like that type of stuff, or you know about this. So I wouldn't put it past Lisa that she's into trees. We also find out that her and John are building a new house because she kept saying that she wanted like a grounding area where she could like put her feet in the ground. And Heather was like, you could be like a rich hippie. And Lisa's like, no, I'm more spiritual, like no hippie over here. But I was like, okay, that's cute. I thought it was a cute little thing. So while they're still on the Sprinter, Lisa basically accuses Brittany of being an alcoholic. She's like, girl, were you being a lush on the boat? Because I heard that you were drinking and throwing up, drinking and throwing up. And we did see Brittany drinking and throwing up a lot on the boat. And so Brittany is like, who did you hear that from? And Lisa's like, I'm not going to say. You know, I just heard it's around. So then they do a flashback. And 2 hours before they went to dinner or on their way to dinner, you see Meredith in the tub and Lisa and her having a conversation. And Meredith lets it be known that, you know, she heard from Bronwyn that pretty much like all throughout the trip on the boat that Brittany was drinking and throwing up, drinking and throwing up. And so Lisa was like, that's kind of giving like alcoholic vibes. And then Meredith is like, that's unusual behavior. And this is where I say Meredith and Lisa were being hypocrites, because it's like, girl, you didn't like them accusing you of that. But I'm also feeling like, I feel like this is retaliation on Meredith and Lisa's part. Like, you want to call my friend a drunk, you want to call me an alcoholic and a pill popper. Well, girl, you was being a full-on lush on that boat at 54 years old. Okay? Like... I mean, it's still hypocritical, but I get the play. Like, if you're going to call me an alcoholic and a pill popper, girl, I wasn't throwing up off the side of the boat while we were on this trip, but you were. Check yourself. So Brittany ends up saying, who told you that? Who said that? She was like, are we at the point in this group where we're just making things up? So they finally get to the restaurant. As they're sitting there, everyone's trying to like figure out what they want to order. And the next thing you know, Bronwyn gets a phone call from Todd. She's low-key freaking out because we find out through a series of flashbacks from, I think, like the second night that they were there or the first night that they were there, that Bronwyn's mom, Muzzy, is officially moving out of the house that they've had for 40 years. Bronwyn ends up saying like she's been in that house, like, or that house has been in her family since she was like 6 months old. And then she also explains that a family friend is buying the house, but she has to be out. Muzzy has to be out by the 15th. And it's just been a lot that she's been going through. Like my mom, she basically says, my mom been through a lot of changes. My dad's in the memory care facility. She had to get the brain tumor removed. Now she's moving out of a house that she was in for 40 years. It's a lot of change. So Todd is the one that's handling everything. And so Brown was on the phone with Todd and she's like, is everything okay? Because when you tell me to call you, like my stomach falls into my butthole, which that I think that happens to everybody. And he's like, no, everything's okay. I was just trying to give you an update as to what's going on. So then Bromley is really emotional in the confessional saying, this is the Todd that I love, the Todd that doesn't ask for anything. He just does it because he loves my family. He's very generous and he's wonderful. And sometimes Todd is a effing moron, but like he's there when I really need him to be there, when it really matters. And I'm just kind of like, Bronwyn is confusing because maybe this Todd is not the one that shows up all the time, but she kind of makes it seem like it is him. I don't know. Either way, we know they're separated, but I mean, it's nice that he chose to go out there and make sure Muzzy was okay in San Diego. But Muzzy is the type of person to get on your nerves. So I can understand him calling her and being like, yo, I'm ready to go. So Bronwyn comes back to the table and Whitney is like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, like, it's a lot going on. And so Lisa's like, what's happening? And she's like, you know, my mom is moving out of her house. Todd is there and they're just getting on each other's nerves. No, I think Lisa ended up asking, like, are they getting on each other's nerves? And she was like, yeah, they are. And so she was like, everything's okay. But then we also find out that none of Muzzy's kids were there with her on Mother's Day. Like, nobody was trying to... But it's like, you got all this mouth for Bronwyn, but the two daughters that you seem to care the most about or have such this perception of them didn't even bother to have them and their husbands come and help you move out of a house that you've been in for 40 years. But the daughter that you kind of look down upon and you give the most crap to, her husband decided through his own volition to go come help you. Funny how life works. Treat people better. So we then get this funny scene of them drinking, and Mary is just like sticking her tongue in it. And Whitney was like, that's the most like sensitive part of your tongue. But she keeps making faces. And so everyone starts doing what Mary's doing and laughing. It was a cute moment. So then Brittany ends up asking Lisa, who told you that I was an alcoholic or that I was drinking and throwing up? Like, please tell me. And Lisa's like, girl, I just heard it that you were drinking and throwing up on the boat. Like, I'm not going to tell you. So then Meredith chimes in and she was like, I'm the one that heard that that's what you were doing. And I told Lisa. And so then Brittany is like, who told you that? And Meredith's like, well, I heard it through the grapevine. I'm not going to tell anybody. And so Brittany's like, who's this mysterious birdie? And she looks directly at Bronwyn because she knows it's Bronwyn. And that's what Bronwyn does. She run her mouth too much. And so Mary is like, do we really got to talk about throwing up? Like, do we have to talk about that? And so Meredith ends up saying, I'm not outing anyone who told me. But then in the confessional, she basically says, Bronwyn told me that Brittany spent most of the time in the bathroom throwing up and like drinking to the point where she was vomiting. So then Bronwyn in the confessional was like, she's not going to take credit for saying that because that's not what she said. She said that Meredith came up to her and was asking her, was Brittany throwing up the whole entire time we were on the trip? And Bronwyn says, yeah, I did see her doing that because we shared a room together. She was in the bathroom a lot. She was like, so yeah, I saw her throwing up. But Bronwyn says she never insinuated that Brittany was a drunk, or anything of that nature. So she's not taking it. So then Brittany ends up saying to Meredith, girl, you're a hypocrite. Like, you spent the past couple of weeks not talking to Whitney because she accused you of being an alcoholic and a pill popper. And she was like, that's not okay. But then I'm kind of looking at them like, then that's why we don't do those types of things to people. Like, if you wouldn't like somebody to call you an alcoholic or a pill popper or to insinuate that you have, like, you're mentally unstable, then you don't do that to other people. Because you can clearly tell that this is getting underneath Brittany's skin. But I'm also like, Brittany, then you can understand why Meredith didn't like that Whitney was going around telling the crew that she was an alcoholic and a pill popper, and y'all were co-signing it. So it's like that saying, ain't no fun when a rabbit got the gun. Now, do I think Meredith and Lisa are being hypocritical? Yes, but I think the table is full of hypocrites. Like, this cast is full of hypocrites. A lot of them do stuff to each other that they don't like. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, because girl, miss me with that. So while they're sitting there, Heather jumps in and she's like, who at the table thinks that Brittany has a drinking problem? And everyone kind of was like, nobody believes that. She was like, we shouldn't be judging and things like that. And then Whitney's like, that's a serious accusation. Yeah, then why the hell were you running your mouth like that, Whitney? So if you don't like it when people are calling your friend Brittany an alcoholic, then why did you feel so inclined to call Meredith a pill popper and an alcoholic? So that means you knew off rip it was a serious accusation and that it wasn't laced in care. You just wanted to throw that out there, and now you see your friend getting strapped with that label. Oh, it's too much? Yeah. So they're sitting there, and then Lisa ends up saying, I outed the alkie. Like, she thought it was funny. Like, Lisa was like, I called her an alkie and a lush. I was thinking it was funny. And then Lisa was like, well, we heard you was pounding drinks. And so then Brittany was like, I can't pound drinks. I can't do that. So then Whitney is taking up for Brittany, and she was like, if we can't call Meredith an alcoholic, then y'all can't call Brittany an alcoholic. And then I think Bronwyn ends up saying, nobody thinks she's an alcoholic. And no, I think Lisa says nobody thinks she's an alcoholic. And then she was like, I didn't call you that. And she was like, I called you alkie. And they're like, girl, they basically told Lisa that's the same thing. And Lisa was like, well, no, because I wasn't out here calling her an alcoholic and a pill popper. I didn't do that. She was like, I added alkie and lush to it to make it unserious. And so then Whitney was like, well, Meredith annihilated me. That's not cute. That's not cute, you guys. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not cute. It's hypocritical. I wanted to tell Whitney to shut up so bad. Like, I was like, shut up, Whitney. Because you're the one that introduced doing that in this group with this situation. Like, you felt so cavalier and so freely to call Meredith an alcoholic and a pill popper. So why is it not okay if Lisa does it? Because it's your friend now? Even though, again, everybody being hypocritical. So then Bronwyn ends up telling Lisa, girl, say you're sorry and we can move on from this. And so Lisa says, I'm sorry. I don't think you're an alcoholic. And Brittany's like, okay. So was it really that serious? So while they're sitting at the table, we then have this moment where Heather purposely did what she did. I don't put it past her. But Heather's giving Brittany all these congratulations about being in this movie called The Mistletones with old girl from 90210 that married that crazy dude. She was in a movie like that. And Lisa's like, yeah, you've been on Broadway. You know, everyone was trying to make Brittany feel good about herself. And then Heather decided to say, I think you're more accomplished than a lot of people or a lot of us at this table. Bronwyn said, hold up now. Bronwyn said, what? Like, Bronwyn was offended, like, girl, what did you just say? Like she was like, can I ask why you just said that? And she was like, you were just saying that Brittany did all these great things. We were bigging her up. And then you're sitting here saying that she's more accomplished than the rest of us. What does that mean? And so Heather was like, well, I'm just saying that, like, she has a nice resume. And I was like, no, Heather, you purposely said that because you know how they feel about Brittany. They feel like Brittany is beneath them, but based off of the way that she behaves. And so all of them are starting to run down their accolades and their accomplishments. And it was like a mess. So then Whitney's in the confessional saying she thinks it's so comical that they are all like upset about Brittany's success. She was like, it's crazy that it drives them crazy. So then Heather was like, all I'm saying is like Brittany is accomplished. And then Brittany was like, well, y'all called me stupid. I got called stupid today. So then they flash back and we see Angie basically telling Brittany, the lights be on, but nobody is home. And Brittany could not re-say the saying. And she was like, Angie, that's pretty low. You're calling me stupid. And Angie looked at her like, yeah. And so as they're sitting there, Heather ends up saying, you know, everyone loves to pile on to Brittany. And so Mary says, so are you her mouthpiece now? And I said, clock it. Because y'all don't like it when Lisa speaks up for Meredith. So why the hell can Brittany and Whitney, like, why can't Brittany speak up for herself? Why does it have to be Heather and Whitney always speaking up for Brittany all of a sudden? And we're just supposed to be okay with it. Hypocrisy. Okay? And so Heather's like, I'm not her mouthpiece. And Mary's like, nah, you do talk a lot about, like, up for her, and you do really go hard for her. So then in the confessional, Heather's like, it just always is a pile on for Brittany, and it feels like the bullies are trying to steal her lunch money, and she's trying to be a good sport about it. These analogies where they're like, these women are getting bullied, these women are in their 50s and 40s. Like, at this point, it's not really bullying. You can stand up for yourself. I've never, that always bothers me when people are like, oh, y'all are bullying her. Bullying to me is like in high school, middle school, elementary school. Either it's bullying or harassment. And right now, Brittany's not getting harassed. Brittany does things and then everybody gets annoyed by her behavior. She knows she's being annoying. She knows she's getting underneath people's skin. But then all of a sudden, Brittany starts crying to make everyone feel bad for her. And it's like, well, stop doing what you're doing. Okay? And so Brittany's like, well, thankfully someone's standing up for me. And so then Mary's like, why can't you just stand up for yourself? Like, at this point, she's going to have to stand up for herself. And so then Angie jumps into the conversation and she's like, well, if we're telling Lisa to take a step back from standing up for Meredith, then y'all need to let Brittany fight her own battles. And I said, thank you, because you can't have it both ways. So then Whitney was like, well, she's the underdog. No. Brittany puts herself in certain situations. Now, have there been moments where the ladies have picked on her? Yes, there have been those moments. But majority of those times, Brittany opens up her mouth and then she says something out of pocket or she does something to irritate somebody and they respond to her just like she responds to everybody else. We're not going to act like Brittany is just some feeble little like lamb and she's getting attacked by a gang of lions. We're not doing that, okay? And so they start going back and forth, more so Whitney and Lisa, because Whitney is trying to emphasize the difference between what they do for Brittany and what Lisa does for Meredith. So then before Whitney could really get into her spiel, Lisa cuts her off. And then Lisa's like, I don't like y'all telling me what to do if I want to stand up for my friend. And then when she does it, she kind of knocks over the glass, but she doesn't do it on purpose. She even says, I did not do that on purpose. That was totally an accident. Like, I didn't do it on purpose. So then Whitney's like, girl, hold my hand, because if you don't hold my hand, it's gonna cause an argument. Give me 7 minutes. So they're holding hands. And so Lisa's like, I just don't like when y'all tell me what to do. The waiter he looking at them like, when are these women getting out of this restaurant? The guy standing behind him is irritated. I said, oh my gosh. So then as they're sitting there, they're both going back and forth and they start arguing. And then you hear the guy say, unfortunately, ladies, the restaurant is closed and y'all got to leave. And so they're trying to continue the argument. And like Angie is trying to jump in. And Braun was like, Angie, they're kicking us out. It's time for us to go. And Angie's like, sir, this is my country. I said, Angie, shut up. This being your country has nothing to do with the restaurant being closed, and y'all need to get out. So get out. So they're like, oh my God, we're getting kicked out. So then Angie's like, we got kicked out of the spa. Now we're getting kicked out of a restaurant. Like in Greece, the Greeks party till the sun come up. Like I've never. So she's embarrassed. And the man ends up saying in Greek, thank God they left. Y'all was getting on his nerves. Okay. Working that man's nerves. But yeah, that was the episode. I know this video is probably an hour long and I hate it. I hate it. But again, Happy New Year to you all. And remember to be regularly authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. And I'm out, y'all.